let's talk about how to get your fiber intake right, because if you get it right, wonderful things can happen. Much more than just having regular bowel movements. If you get your fiber intake right, you can expect things like a rise in HDL, the good cholesterol, a drop in triglycerides, a drop in insulin resistance that leads to diabetes, a reduction in blood sugar, reduction in blood pressure, bowel regularity, protection from conditions like diverticular disease and colon cancer, and even better mood and being more optimistic and less anxiety. The problem with fiber is that the world of fiber has been filled with misinformation. The whole conversation on fiber began many decades ago with a doctor named Dr. Dennis Burkitt, who was working in southern Africa as a physician. He was from Ireland. And he noticed a funny thing. He noticed that the Europeans that lived in that area, who ate bread and pasta and cookies and scones, had dry little bowel movements, kind of like rabbit pellets, and very low in fiber. He noticed the native Africans who ate game and dug in the dirt for roots and tubers and gathered berries, ate off the land, right? These people had big steamy bowel movements filled with fiber. The odd thing was, the Europeans had all kinds of problems: hemorrhoids, constipation, ulcerative colitis, bowel cancer, colon cancer, stomach ulcers, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, right? While the Africans had virtually none of these conditions. So he ascribed a difference to fiber because the Africans were eating a very fiber-rich diet, rich in vegetables, leaves, plants, nuts, seeds, etc., right? Unfortunately, that get more fiber conversation was co-opted by the grain and cereal industry, because there are fibers in grains and cereals, but most of the fiber is a different kind of fiber. It's cellulose fiber, which is inert. Cellulose is harmless. It's the same fiber you find in wood or in sawdust. So the grain and cereal industry turned this into a you must get more fiber, such as in bran cereals. And they encourage everyone to eat bran cereals. The U.S. government, USDA, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services bought into those arguments, and it became an argument to eat fiber-rich cereals and whole grains. And that's where a lot of this went wrong, because everyone thought that eating Fiber One or Raisin Bran was a solution because you were getting rich intakes of cellulose fiber. Another problem. There were numerous epidemiological studies, the nurses' health study, the physicians' health study, that suggested that higher intakes of fiber, but fiber not broken down to the various varieties, that higher fiber intakes were associated with less colon cancer, less heart disease, less type 2 diabetes, and being less overweight. Those, by the way, are very weak studies. They're observational studies, which are nothing more than observations. They're not actual experiments. But nonetheless, that became the basis for Get More Fiber, which most people, because of the push by industry, interpreted to mean get more fiber cereal, get more whole grains. People didn't hear get more green pepper, spinach, and nuts. So we have to re-examine the whole question of is fiber healthy? And it is healthy for you, but cellulose fiber is the least healthy. So what fibers really stand out as providing you with outsized and wonderful health benefits? Well, the fibers from vegetables and fruits, those are indeed good. Those are a mixture of forms of fibers. But if there's a real standout in fiber, it's prebiotic fibers. And all that means are fibers that you can ingest, but you lack the digestive enzymes to digest. But bacteria are able to digest. So cellulose, that the fiber in bran, is indigestible by both humans and by bacteria. Any bran you take in here comes out the other end. All it does is bulk up your stools, doesn't do anything else. But prebiotic fibers go in here, and bacteria, hopefully mostly in the colon, though more and more modern people have bacteria in their ileum, jejunum, duodenum, and stomach, that is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, a whole nother conversation, a very, very important, very common abnormality responsible for a whole range of health problems. But the prebiotic fibers are supposed to make their way all the way down through 24 feet of upper GI tract, upper gastrointestinal tract, then to the colon, where bacteria will metabolize those fibers to a variety of metabolites, but most typically so-called short-chain fatty acids. The most dominant one is something called butyrate or butyric acid. And butyrate mediates many of the wonderful effects that you observe when people get in sufficient quantities of prebiotic fiber, such as that rise in HDL, reduction in triglycerides, reduction in insulin resistance, reduction in blood sugar, and a lot of the mental and emotional benefits. So a lot of that's mediated by bacteria that convert prebiotic fibers to butyrate. That's where the real health benefits come. Now, the benefits of prebiotic fiber seem to plateau at about 20 grams per day. So if you want to know where to get these things, they're mostly in legumes like white beans, black beans, kidney beans, cannellini beans, etc., peas, jicama, other root vegetables like asparagus and onions and garlic, convenient sources like inulin powder, fructooligosaccharides powder, galactooligosaccharides powders, acacia fiber. You'll find a full list. I have a Wheat Belly blog post. I'll post a link down below that lists a lot of the sources of these prebiotic fibers. You can get them from food. You can add them to food. One of the keys with prebiotic fibers, beyond getting 20 grams a day or more, you can get more. It's just not clear whether more is more beneficial. But the key is to vary your routine. Don't rely on one. So we've had people, for instance, say things like, inulin fiber is convenient. I put a teaspoon in my coffee and then use it throughout the day in other foods like yogurt. If you stick to only one form of prebiotic fiber, you don't get all the benefits. You start to have actually harmful effects because it tends to cultivate only specific bacterial species or fungi. And you actually cause dysbiosis or disrupted bowel flora. So the key is to vary your routine. So maybe for breakfast you have coffee with a teaspoon of inulin in it, but for lunch you have a serving of legumes, maybe black beans, folded into a salad or something like that, with other root vegetables chopped up. Maybe for dinner you have acacia fiber mixed into some dish. So the key here is to vary your routine. Don't stick to one prebiotic fiber, because one of the things you're trying to do is cultivate species diversity, bacterial species diversity. The healthiest people, over and over and over again, and every single study, the healthier people have greater species diversity, meaning a greater number of bacterial species. The unhealthiest people have a narrowing of species diversity and a proliferation of unhealthy species. So make it a distinct point to get 20 grams of prebiotic fibers per day, sources in my Wheat Belly blog post, and vary your routine. That's the fiber you want. That's the fiber that achieves far more than just getting you bowel regularity. Now, if you want to come up to speed in the full program I talk about that includes how to apply prebiotic fibers and include them in your diet, the easiest thing to do is get my newest book, which is the Wheat Belly Revised and Expanded Edition, where I've condensed the content of about 7 books into one book, and everything's updated. All the new strategies and all the new ideas, as well as new recipes and new success stories.